this cost estimate is if we were to, and I sat down with TAG and we walked through this, would be if you were to bid the entire thing out to a contractor. So, but just for also the public's benefit, so the guide rail estimate came in at $23,024. The Jersey barrier installation came in at $45,373. But subsequently, and I walked through this with TAG, and that many of what we have estimated here is within the capabilities of him and his staff. And so we feel quite comfortable that assume if you were to, for instance, go forward with the guide rail alternative, you could reduce that $23,000 estimate down into more like the $15,000 to $16,000 ballpark. In that TAG and his team can take care of a lot of the excavation that's estimated. They can do the signs themselves, and so we've already sat down and figured out ways to make this as efficient as possible to the township. I would also note this concept would restrict trucks, so that would be both signed at the intersection with Strasburg Road and as well as with Sawmill Road for no trucks. And it would also reduce the speed limit from what's presently 35, and you'd be lucky to get it through there today at 35 or ever at 35 if you know that road well. We reducing it to 30 miles per hour, which just helps with the making the taper slightly small.
You showed 25 in here.
Oh, is it 25? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
They're in the one lane area.
30 to 25, right?
Yeah, 30 to
Oh, yes.
25.
Good. Apologies.
And which way would the one-way run?
It would be bi-directional, but that you would come up, so I say one lane, but it would be a bi-directional traffic flow. So that if I come up, all vehicles would come up, make a stop, and then if you, the best analogy is that one lane bridge concept. That if you come up, see no vehicle in the one lane area, then you're free to go. And alternatively, if you see a car, you yield or stop at that stop bar until you have the clearance to go.
I understand.
How long do you, for a project with the guide rails, how long would you estimate, like, for installation with TAG after speaking with them? How long would that take to get open?
It depends on the availability, but my estimate would be maybe 3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
Start
actually
to finish.
hitting it at a good time with the spring, in coming up here quick soon.
We could have it open by summer?
Yeah, I would certainly think so, yes.
And when would your start time be for the project? Estimated?
It's all pending on the board's,
I just mean from an engineering stand, I mean, can they do the paving now, or is paving now just not gonna take?
the paving, yeah, that would probably need to wait until a lot of the asphalt plants reopen with the break of the spring.
Is there any reason that you would consider the barrier, or you just think, what's some of the pros that go with the barrier versus the rails?
The only pro with the barrier is that you are not driving the pylon that's required to stabilize the guide rail. And by not doing that, potentially so you effectively save the base of the road.
So that could be a serious issue, because there's like 19 feet of uncompacted, it wasn't constructed properly, that road itself. So from my understanding, it's not compacted down almost 19 feet properly. So, and then we also have the stormwater coming off the hill, that if we don't seal coat, I guess the piling's going down, we could actually create a new spot for water to penetrate.
No, that wouldn't be effective.
It wouldn't happen, okay.
And really why, in my professional opinion, in order to pull off, to remove this and go back to a 2-lane configuration, you have to take on what's that major capital project. So to then restore the very minor damage caused by driving the guide rail into there, it's insignificant in the
Yeah, in the
cost
long
of
run,
fixing
a $1 million
the
project.
gotcha.
Yeah,
So it would certainly be there's really no other benefit to the to the Jersey barrier alternative. So, I'd save yourself the 20,000 if you're gonna go forward with either of these and simply go with the guide.
sure. So what do we think? I mean, we were looking at it for a long time, and we have this road closed. It's really affecting a lot of residents over there. It's also for emergency services to get through on that area. $1 million versus, 23 or less to get it open. I mean, it
And
gives
that-
some.
and that's not, that one lane there, it seems fairly stable, correct? As far as, because I know that, the road wasn't properly constructed, so
Yeah,
one lane we would have is in an area where it's solid.
yeah, we looked at, I would say we did not do another geotech analysis.
Where we
But-
had the one.
Yes, but we were mindful in where we were locating the guide rail, that it would not be in any part of the failure locations, and even well buffered for, I think, at least 4 feet from any failure location. So yes, we feel quite comfortable with the stability.
In terms of the truck traffic limitations, and really, I guess, as to the width of the one-lane portion that's gonna be open, is it gonna be sufficient for emergency services to get through that area?
Yes, in that it's, they'll just, because we did 2 alternatives here. So we are maintaining an 11-foot lane, and then we're actually, on the north shoulder, would be stabilized, so you almost effectively, if you had an over width vehicle like a fire truck, there'd be a 2-foot shoulder. So we're not into, no passenger car would need that 2-foot reinforced shoulder, but you could effectively get a 13-foot vehicle through there in a real pinch.
How about by weight?
Yeah, well, that was nice.
Weight.
It would be stabilized with the, to PennDOT standard for the reinforced shoulder, so yeah, other than the condition that's there, it's certainly not to standard, but you could certainly get it through there comfortably.
But what kind of tonnage would you estimate that road to be eligible to handle? Like, we have, bridges that are rated for tonnage, like what would you say that we would have to almost post for?
I gotta say we did not do an adequate state assessment of it, and I'd just be pulling a number out of thin air, which is
So
not
with
our profession to
with the
do.
no trucks, then it's just a general no
Just
trucks?
it's more the fact of width, or of the narrowness of the road, and keeping especially trucks, from encountering that type of a.
Breaking up the edge and or the guardrail.
So you're technically controlling the trucks, but you're posting no trucks, right? You're using a general sign, no trucks? Is
Yep.
that- Okay, and then secondly, you're using the guide rails to constrict the width to prevent the trucks from going through. Is that correct? I mean, a passageway?
I'll be clear,
Yeah.
a truck could make it through the 11-foot lane, it's just we are discouraging it, and especially given the function of Mortonville Road, and that it doesn't, there are adequate alternatives to go, that can get you around that it's just in our professional judgment wise to, in this interim improvement, would be to prevent, restrict trucks from using that.
Right, which comes back to the thought of weight limit, because that's really the way you channel it. Yeah, you grab that because, yeah. Would you?
26,000 or below is.
Yeah, so underneath
I mean-
CDL.
Right. No commercial vehicles, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, other than except local deliveries, yeah.
And do we need an engineered, at least a letter study from you guys as the traffic engineer to support that, so we can put it in place? That's my understanding, to meet the PennDOT standards.
I'll double check on that, Mike. I think in this circumstance, that would be in the instance, I'm fairly sure, of if we just wanted to restrict any two-way, two-lane road to truck vehicles. But let me double check that, and we can
Okay.
maybe have an offline discussion on the documentation of that restriction.
Okay, then.
Because that's how enforcement would be able to come, say there was a truck, I mean, you know, the general term of just truck alone, you need to have some kind of weight limit to bring in enforcement, I would imagine, because otherwise, you know, it's too general of a term.
Yeah.
But-
I think you need an ordinance anyway to authorize the stop signs, the speed limit, and the one-lane road portion of it, and then also the truck restriction, truck weight, whatever it would be.
So are we able to see relatively quickly then that everything with that part of it would be in order as far as being able to get an ordinance together?
Oh yeah, that part's easy, because it's really just a,
Well, I mean,
Once we get it-
for the weight or something like that, right? That seems to be additional work that is needed.
it is, yeah.
Just a
Because
letter, though.
the 23 or the 15 doesn't include, like, your additional fees to do that study and that work, correct?
In terms of the truck fee?
Yeah.
Because beyond that, this plan, we're confident could be taken by TAG, his team, and/or the guide rail contractor and used to construct it. So there'd be, other than that, the minor documentation needed in the truck study, the township would encounter no further fees from TPD on this.
Okay.
So are you, let me bounce something back to you, are you able to offer us a letter saying what you would think that could handle it? Is that, are we getting to that point with you? Like, will you provide us that letter
Yeah, we can,
with the weight?
we will follow up and provide the letter for the truck restriction.
Okay.
Yeah, for 15, we'll still need to, under the second class township code, we still need to get phone quotes or written quotes for that work. I'm not sure about PennDOT standards, if they would still require it to be bid or partially bid, even though it's under the 19.7. That's something I'll have to look at.
Could we use some of the liquid fuel money for?
That's what I'm thinking. I think
Yeah.
if you're gonna hit liquid fuel money for it, you might need to bid it.
Okay.
That's something
Even,
I'm not 100%.
even if we take parts of what he has in here out, the stuff that TAG and the Public Works can do?
Yeah, even if we carve it and get it down to 15K, I think I'll have to, I mean, if it were a straight up project that we were doing, we'd have to get phone or written quotes, because it's above 10.7.
Right.
19.7 under the second class township code is what triggers the public bid requirement. I'm not sure if the liquid fuels requirements are otherwise, if that would still require
Is that something we can
bidding.
find out?
Yeah.
Relatively?
Okay.
Because, yeah, we want to make sure that's all in a row as well. And maybe even having TAG go through, I know he's not here tonight, but having TAG go through and identify that stuff which he can do as part of the bidding process, so that
Yeah.
they're bidding only on the
Yeah,
stuff
so
we
the
can't
scope
do.
of work for,
Correct.
that's right.
So would you be able to do that for us, go back to TAG and just kind of figure out what workload that TAG can handle out of this project? Because, so we can possibly move forward,
Sooner than later.
yeah, maybe next month, just
Yeah.
so we can have it approved for spring to start and then get it open for the residents over there and everyone else by next summer. We have a development over there and we'll be very happy to have that open again.
And there's enough sight distance for the folks that would stop on either end of the one lane portion to see someone?
Yep.
Just so you don't have to. situation
Yes,
where-
we did do a site distance survey as part of the preparation of this, and it meets all PennDOT standards. That was the reason, among others, for reducing the speed limit by that 5 miles per hour, is it helped us meet that site distance criteria a little bit better than otherwise.
So what's great about this, it also buys the township, I mean, we were looking at, $1 million or more to fix the road properly, and, there was some grant money out there, but we had to match quite a bit, which we didn't have, so we can start to save some money, that we, each year for the ultimate project of technically having to fix that at some point. And hopefully, we get several, or a decade out of it, it's, it gives us plenty of time to save up for some type of matching grant to do that.
Hopefully not that long. But
Yeah, but I mean, just,
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think we had to have like 400,000 or 500,000 for.
And that was a year or two ago.
Yeah. So,
That's all I
that's
know.
great, thank you. Yeah.
Question. How long is this temporary fix going to be in place?
Well, until, I would say until funds are found to improve the road otherwise. So,
So what is a rough estimate on that? It could be,
That's something we need to work on.
it could be 5 or 6 years.
Well, that's what we were just talking about, yeah.
So-
Listen, because it was you weren't here at the time, but it's not compacted, like, when it was created, the road wasn't compacted properly, so it's been undermined.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, you have to go down almost
And
19
not-
feet
and not
to
just
start
on
to
the road.
support it and come back up. And we were looking at over $1 million, yeah.
So like,
Well over.
the signage that is on, that you have listed on the plans, like the flashing lights and all this stuff, Commonwealth is going to something different, 2019. So, any signs that should go up, especially the ones with flashing, that have to conform, those things, putting up stuff that we'll have to take down
yeah, no, these signs would meet the new reflectivity standards.
for 2019.
Yeah, for the, yes.
Just a minor point, but with the no truck delivery for the southern end of it, would that be shifted down to the nearest intersection?
Yeah, we have a note on the plan that says that would be, to be placed at the Mortonville Road, Strasburg Road intersection.
Okay, gotcha.
But since our plan didn't go all the way down there, we put it there with the note.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you very
It's
much.
good news,
Yes,
yes.
it's really good. So hopefully we can
We
put
can
something together
I think we can afford this one.
in the next month to move forward with this possible.
So that's a great lot. Randy can put together that stuff, I can then work with him to get the ordinance ready for you to consider, because you have to, we're gonna have to authorize that for advertising first, and then you approve it.
You got something?
Here's some great.
Thanks for that. Yeah, thank you.
That's all you had, Ed, correct? I'll just go back up real quick because you came in, but did you have anything for the fire department? Since we
Sir,
already
I'm
went
sorry, I
through
was
this.
running a few minutes late, a little under the weather here.
That's all right.
I had obviously all the reports here from both fire companies, our year-end reports in the process of being completed. I also have our 2015 full audit, which is done by a third party, so I have that, but I'm gonna bring all, I've had it for about a month. I want to give it to you when I give it in the year-end report, so you have all that from a financial standpoint. And unfortunately, I missed Supervisor Porter's discussion item A, the tax credit. Was there something you guys discussed on that?
Yeah, I noticed on PSTATs, the discussions throughout the Commonwealth where they're discussing municipalities adopting that, and Mike elaborated on it, he said it can be up to a 20% credit for
Real estate.
yeah, the real estate tax. So what I had Lisa do, we're trying to, Mike suggest finding other municipalities that might have adopted that around here.
London Grove Township last month.
Lemon Grove did?
London,
Okay.
Yeah, they were, as far as I know, the first in the county. I know several are discussing. I did a little research when I saw it was on the agenda. There are currently, as far as I know, 8 firefighters that live in East Falmouth Township. 1 or 2 from Westwood and 6 or 7 from Modine. So really, from a financial standpoint of a 20% tax credit, it probably gives everybody, on average, $40 credit or something for the year. Unfortunately, it doesn't credit their school taxes, which is what I think would be
Sure.
It'd be a real incentive to get people to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if $40 will do it, but I think it's one more step that municipalities can take to show support to the volunteers and possibly offer some kind of incentive when I don't think it affects the bottom line of the township by much. Yeah, I certainly applaud the board for taking that step. It wouldn't affect me personally, but I've been working with the other townships we serve, and I think it can only help in some way to at least offer something, and maybe it gets some prospective person that might be moving in or that lives here, that may want to save $40 or $50 a year, and may be willing to do that.
Sure.
Out there amongst the people. I know, same process, it requires an ordinance that would have to be advertised for consideration. I believe London Grove enacted it right away. Theirs actually went into effect in December. But as part of the act, the firefighter would have to meet a certain amount of training and a certain amount of responsibility as far as what they have completed throughout the year in order to be eligible for the credit. You can't just be, they're a member of the fire department. They have to serve a certain amount of hours and all that, and that can be stipulated between an agreement with the township and the fire chiefs. And then I believe it's 60-day notice that you have to notify the township prior to tax bill going out. So obviously your 2017 bills are out, so it would be something to probably look forward to if you consider it for enacting it later this year, so there'd be enough time for the firefighters to take advantage of it for 2018.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for looking up into that, but that's
Sure.
something that's very nice. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Alright, legal issues, first we'll start with, as was advertised or put on the township website, we did reach, that's what you call a memorandum of agreement or a temporary or tentative agreement with the police collective bargaining unit that we're going to motion on here in a minute. So I'll move to adopt the memorandum agreement between East Fallowfield Township and the East Fallowfield Township Police Officers Association to ratify the terms of a new 2-year contract effective January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Questions or comments regarding this? Mr. Zeller?
All right, Irwin Zeller. I just have a question. I looked over the January 3rd Board of Supervisors organizational meeting here, and it indicates here that a motion was made to appoint the various officers and also the annual salaries on all these individuals. Does that include, and I understand the new contract is for a 2% increase in the compensation, is that true? We have no, it may be on the site, but I haven't looked at the site to see some of the details, but can you really give us an idea with regard to the details of the contract? You indicated 2 years, but what is the actual increase percentage-wise?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and to point to that, at the time we had to point it, so those numbers in there are based on what it was at that time. So obviously things will change with the new agreement. As is shown in there, high-level overview of it. We got rid of what was called mandatory overtime or contract overtime in favor of chart days.
What was the trade-off on that?
The trade-off on that was the initial bump up to what the base salary being what they were making with the contract overtime. Because that's essentially, whether this contract went through or not, that's what we would be paying them for the 84 hours every 2 weeks.
That's
so
the 7.5%.
That's the 7.5% initial adjustment, and then a 2% raise on top of
What
that.
is the 7.5%?
Well, it's readjusting what was called contract overtime, meaning every 2 weeks they have 4 hours of overtime, just because of 12-hour schedules.
Whether they worked or they didn't work it, it was just.
No, when they work.
When they work, yeah.
They were scheduled at 7 12-hour days.
Correct, they would be scheduled to have 84 hours every 2 weeks. The way most go is that it's a chart day, which means they get an extra 13 days off throughout the year. So that's kind of the trade-off there, to equal out to where they were actually at with the contract overtime, because with the contract overtime, that's what they're actually making. So it's just kind of an adjustment from, that's the trade-off, as you would call it.
So the base pay is being increased 7.5%.
Correct. But
Can we
there's,
assume there would be no overtime paid then? In other words,
well, there'll be occasional
Compensated.
overtime.
there will be an addition.
That would be over and above what they have now, so they wouldn't have overtime, 4 hours of overtime every 2 weeks being paid out. It would just be as needed, and we did, increase the part-time police officer budget so that can help cover that, and, the chief is obviously gonna work towards making sure we keep the actual overtime expenses down, to make up for that. The other side of it is, the medical contribution increased from 5% to 10%. So we'll be getting, more money back in from that increase, and that covered, from the 5% they were paying against the, I think it was the 2013 rate of what we were paying for medical insurance at that time. So that was a fixed amount from 2013 to 2016. It's gonna be a fixed amount again, but only for a 2-year contract. That's why we are having a 2-year contract, and it'll be 10% of the 2017 rate.
I looked at last year, and the police department results in 44% of the total revenues. Does the board, are they concerned about that at all? Because we have other obligations in the township, we're talking about roads here, and there's a lot of expenditure, 44%. We have to have a balance somewhere. And can we keep going to 46%, 48%? What does the board consider to be a proper balance with regards to the police department? What goes to that, I understand safety is very important, but on the other hand, perhaps we're being overly generous, and I'm thinking as a taxpayer, and all of us are taxpayers here, and we have to consider the taxpayer in this equation. So I just bring that to the attention of the board. If the percentages, and the 44% does not include the 2%, whatever the new contract, this was, according to last year, was 44%. Now it's gonna go up to a higher percentage this year.
Well,
So I just want the board to consider that, because you're representing the taxpayers, and I know you were there in your, with regards to safety and good services within the township, that's very important, but there's got to be some type of balance to this. Now, one other thing, which is sort of picking in, I see a vehicle out here, the police car down here, which obviously is a reason for people to slow down and see it. But I see also we're leasing another vehicle, which is an expenditure. Do we really need that extra vehicle down there with some others in the department? Because that all adds to more expense for the police department. So I just bring this up. It's just from a layperson's observation, from a citizen, I see this, and I am not into it like you people on the board, knowing the nuts and bolts of the details. But I think certain things come to mind anyway. But basically, it comes to a balance, balancing safety versus cost. Thank you.
Yep. And I'll, to answer a few of those points, last year's budget included an 8th full-time officer, which is not in the budget this year. So we did get a savings right off the bat from that. Part of that went to increasing the part-time budget for the part-time police officers, but we still did have a net savings around 80,000, I believe, from that. So the percentage should hopefully be just about in line. We can see now that we have the new CBA, once it's ratified, we can see what that looks like against what we budgeted for, whether it's more or less, and see where that goes. Obviously, that'll be something, we'll be right back negotiating again next year, the beginning of 2018, so it'll be kind of a quick turnaround, really, where we're starting to, take those kinds of things into consideration, and, it is known that it is a high portion of the budget, so that, is something we would think of. To address the car, the engine doesn't work in that car, and it's paid off, so it's just sitting there as a deterrent. For speeding, we will be getting rid of it at some point this year, so that's why that car sits there. Mr. Nash?
Steve, I asked also about like the incident report basically that chief submits, and for whatever reason I wasn't aware of the whole thing, and I see like last month there was like 160 some incidents, and this month there's 170 some incidents, and I was just wondering, I mean, is there an oversight? Does the board have like an oversight person that is, would know if, like for checks and balances, and basically, as who on the board, or does the board in general have, access to, all the documentation on the incidents that are reported every month?
Correct. I mean, any of the board can work with the chief to see, anybody involved in the incident can request an incident report, and correct me if I'm wrong, chief, on that, but, and then, we do technically have a liaison to the police department, so anything that the board maybe wants to go funnel through there, will happen, and, obviously we look to continue